Hey friends, Happy New Year. Welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws Podcast with East Forest. I am the Forest of the East. Happy to do this again in 2021. I hope you had a good holiday season. Frankly, I'm kind of glad the holidays are over. No hard feelings to the holidays. I quite enjoy the festivative spirit, as it were. I just get a little impatient. That is my sole obstacle in life, and I feel like everything goes on pause around, like, I don't know, the second to third week in December, and people are like, peace out until the new year, and all these balls are in the air, juggling balls, that is. So I'm anxious to get going, and to share with you more podcasts like this one with David Bronner of Dr. Bronner's. If you don't know Dr. Bronner's, what rock have you been hiding under? But if you don't know David, he's got an amazing story and this amazing family lineage of not just making soap, but being cosmic wild men. He is the chief, what does he call it? Chief Engagement Officer, Cosmic Engagement Officer, CEO of Dr. Bronner's. And he's an activist. He's the top guy at Dr. Bronner's Magic Soaps, and he's known for his activism on a range of issues: fair trade, sustainable agriculture, animal rights, drug policy reform, and notably psychedelic research. He is one of the big helps and funding supports of the measures that recently passed for psilocybin-assisted therapy in Oregon. So naturally, I'm like, this guy is an ally, and I would love to talk to him. And moreover, I use Dr. Bronner's soaps and have for a long time. As a matter of fact, not only do I use it, but I use it exclusively. I use it in the shower. I use it to wash dishes. I use it to wash my hands. I use it to wash the dog. It's the thing I use because I learned about the toxicity in a lot of soaps and even carcinogenic elements that they're putting in these things. And I was like, this is nuts. And Dr. Bronner's became my go-to, and I mean, shit, you can brush your teeth with it. It's a little weird, but you can do it. There's all those uses on that wonderful label, and we get into all things about those labels, but more importantly, his work and what it's like to essentially run a company but have activism be a large part of it. That's not a risk that a lot of companies take, and it's even something that I think about staying true to our North Stars as we're essentially operating inside a world of commerce, and that is the game that we play to be an activist in a sense. Like, if we were to completely divorce ourselves from it, perhaps your voice might be less. Even in the music business, like, we're playing a kind of game, and I hope then to be subversive by being inside that game because, like, that's the Maya, the playing field that we're on. So I couldn't be more honored that he's on the show, and I thought it'd be a great way to start the new year. So I know you're going to love this conversation. Quick bit of business. This is important. The show, Salt Lake City, the East Forest Ceremony Concert on January 16th. I am extremely disappointed to say we have to postpone it. That is because the county and the state, Utah, they're taking over the venue. They're commandeering the venue for potential extra hospital beds, and this has happened to actually technically the second time. And there's nothing we can do. And we've been searching for alternative venues, and then we had a lead on one, and that they can't do that either. And it's looking like it's not going to happen as of me recording this. And when this comes out, we hope to have some very detailed information on how you could shift the tickets that you have purchased to the new date or receive a refund, and potentially some more information about expanding this into more cities. The model of this was always to be COVID compliant and safe, actually above board safe, but that's hard to do when the rules of the game are continually shifting and they're different in different locations. So we're still committed to making this work, and I think this kind of gathering and introspective ceremonial work is more important than ever. So we don't want to shirk away because it's getting hard, but I just want to express my condolences and apologies for those of you who have shown your amazing support as a community for signing up for these events. We hope you can stick with us, and as we're having to roll with the punches with so many things in this COVIDian era, this is another one, and we're doing our best. So thank you for your consideration and support. And again, more information should be emailed to you very, 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 very soon, if it hasn't been already, if you do already have a ticket. And if you're thinking of coming, go to eastforest.org/tour, and you'll see about the exact date we're shifting to. It may be May 1st, and if we're going to be adding some more cities, which we hope to, we'll be rolling that out also as soon as we can. We're just, it's a lot of details to consider. Yeah. Other than that, I do have a new album that's being mastered as I'm speaking. Taylor Dupree is mastering the record. It's called Possible. It's a follow-up studio record, so hope to start sharing that with you soon. And East Forest Retreat in the fall, thanks for those of you who have been signing up to that. We are moving forward. We'll know more about sort of the COVID guidelines for that and what we're going to need to require or not require probably in early summer, but you can sign up for that. Space is limited. Any other retreats in the real world, I would imagine, would be more into 2022, if you can believe that. But we hope to get Esalen. We hope we'll be opening back up and we can return there. And I've got some ideas for some other ideas of retreats. Also an idea to expand the East Forest Council into a virtual format that's ongoing, that we're sort of like a council that you guys could drop in or out. I would hope you drop in and stay in, so we can have that FaceTime and accountability and tracking of one another's progress, questions, dreams, and ideals. I'm still kicking that one around in my heart and in my head, so if you have any thoughts on it, let me know. info@eastforest.org, on social media, at East Forest on Instagram, at eastforestmusic on Facebook, Twitter. Let me know what you think. What would be useful to you or not useful to you as we keep walking. There's so much going on and still so much unknown. So it's more important than ever that we strengthen our resolve and our ability to listen, both to listen to others and to listen to that internal voice that is always there, that is you. So in many ways, the tools of the music and these experiences and these conversations are mechanisms for dissipating the fog and for you to learn how to be able to hear, how to listen to you and the all that is, the great knowing, and for me to whisper to you, yes. All right, let's get into this conversation with our new friend, all one, David Bronner. So I want to, before we start, I got a question, or as we're starting. I think we might have met, and this is a weird connection. You let me know if this was you. It's about 15 years ago, New York City. I went to a play that was like off Broadway, and it was about Dr. Bronner's or the family or the life in a little theater, little black box theater. Maybe it was like a reading, and I feel like you or someone from your family was there.
It wasn't me, but it was my Uncle Ralph. So
Okay.
My Uncle Ralph, he passed on a few years ago, but
there he
he's
is.
super dope. So Dr. Bronner's son, my dad's brother. Yeah. He had this rad play where, the audience would like yell a number, and like he had like a bunch of stories, and he'd play guitar and tell stories about my granddad, and that was awesome. And then that led to the movie, Dr. Bronner's Magic Soapbox.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
well, that's cool.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Well,
are you on Maui? Is that where you're at?
No, I wish. I'm in Boise, Idaho. It's similar. No.
Okay. Because Ram Dass, right? Isn't Ram Dass where
he was in Maui?
Yeah,
yes, and okay. I went out there to work with him. But I'm in Boise, Idaho, and then I have some space in southern Utah as well.
Okay, well, right on. Yeah, I mentioned because in it's actually not Dr. Bronner's Magic Soapbox. I'm mixing it up. There's another movie that has Dr. Bronner in it, and it's called Rainbow Bridge. And it's a documentary about a commune in Maui in like 1970. It's kind of almost like a mockumentary, but it not making fun. Just but I don't think it's like a strict. It's like a mixed mockumentary documentary. But it's got Jimi Hendrix's last live performance in it. It's pretty ripping.
No kidding.
Or last like recorded live performance on the side of the volcano there, and it's just incredible. Last
Wow.
half, it's got a little cameo of with my granddad, and kind of the best and the worst of the '60s. Just in this film, it's pretty amazing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then we have a little bit of crossover from. I spent some time at Harvard as well, but it was for a graduate program that was sort of at Harvard. It was through the American Repertory Theater and the Moscow Art Theater. But I lived there for 2 years, went to school there. And
right on. What years was that?
That was around 2000-ish.
Okay,
so
cool.
90, wait, am I getting that right? 99 to 2001. Yeah.
Right on. It's funny. I just earlier had a Zoom with Charlie Stang. He's professor at the Divinity School there.
I was across the street. Yeah.
So he's setting up a transcendence and transformation program there, and it's going to be about all the techniques of getting into altered mystical state, but really with a focus on psychedelics and focus on all the techniques, but obviously psychedelics is going to be the.
I mean, I think that right there across the street was where they did the Good Friday experiments.
That's right.
With Ram Dass. That's the stuff that started to get them,
that
led to get them kicked out.
Yeah,
I mean, that was all right
together.
there.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So
the beginning.
Yeah. So I guess your audience knows all about the Good Friday experiment.
Maybe not, but they definitely know about psychedelics and the research. I've had a lot of researchers on, and I think they know a lot about, the wellness world. But hey, I don't pretend to know about people. I think there's people of all shapes and sizes tuning in. So that was an amazing thing.
Yeah, Good Friday experiment. That was just a mega moment. What was his? I forget the Divinity School student, Walter Pankey, I think actually. Walter Pankey, who went on to be a whole force in his own right.
Right.
So he his thesis or his test was to feed Harvard Divinity School students, devout Christians. Half, he had like maybe 20, and half of them got a placebo, some nicotine in a pill, just a little bit to kind of give you a flush, and then half of them got a pretty high dose of psilocybin. And it
on
was,
Good Friday,
on Good
religious
Friday.
Holiday for people who are in a divinity school. It's a special occasion.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the most important holiday of the Christian calendar, and
right.
This is Jesus' crucifixion, and it was Thurman Marshall, who is a mentor to Martin Luther King, who was giving the sermon. And so as the sermon proceeds and the psilocybin's coming up, it's pretty apparent pretty quickly about who got the
placebo.
People are wailing and crying and laughing and just having the most ecstatic, intense experience of their lives, and really just breaking through and having just a real communion and it just was this really foundational moment. And before the psychedelic research all got shut down in the 60s, this was one of the most important experiments. And they were doing psychedelics inside prisons and showing how it can really help people process trauma and sort
addiction.
their lives and addiction. Founder of AA, Bill Watson, was a big believer in LSD for helping you find that higher power and sort your life. And now we're living through the whole Renaissance.
Yeah, and I, your name has come up not just because I happen to use Dr. Bronner's, so like for everything. I mean, like the shower, dishes. I mean, it's a big part of my life. But it's more that you've been a big supporter of this resurgence and wave that's happening, particularly with psilocybin. I know you were doing that for a long time with cannabis, but I've really seen you put some energy and weight behind what's happening now, and you're hitting the nail on the head, because all that promising research we had so long ago, 40, 50 years ago, and some of it even before that, it just stopped. And particularly with addiction, well, there's so many other uses perhaps we don't even know about. Is that what was drawing you to really want to kick your weight behind this, which I know is an important decision to make when you have another company, right, and
Mm-hmm.
employees and all these things, and there's questions. Did you wrestle with that decision at all?
Well, I mean, so first, as far as my motivation, I mean, certainly the incredible clinical trials at Johns Hopkins, NYU, UCLA, showing the incredible efficacy of psilocybin-assisted therapy for substance use disorders, for alcoholism, for smoking cessation, as well as for end-of-life anxiety, people feeling, just having debilitating depression and fear in the face of death, and having this therapy and being able to really live out their rest of their days, with joy and acceptance and a much higher quality of life.
Sure.
And I think as a society, and Ram Dass was a big part of this, we just don't die well. And, we just need to be doing a way better job. And we're starting to do good on the physical with the palliative care and for physical pain, but the emotional pain, like we're still not doing so great. And psilocybin therapy has just shown just incredible promise to help people, break through and identify with a way bigger life reality process that we're just part of, and death is part
Right.
of, and accept that. And with addiction, just really break those self-destructive patterns of thought and behavior, and put in place, just much more healthy ways of being. These medicines come from indigenous traditions where they've been held in very high reverence for thousands of years, and these more indigenous ways of knowing and healing and being, like that's kind of what is being brought into our culture now, and what we really need. And obviously we're facing these epidemics of depression and anxiety and addiction, PTSD. I'm on the board of MAPS, so we're bringing MDMA through FDA approval process for treatment-resistant PTSD. And FDA has given breakthrough designation for both these therapies, psilocybin-assisted therapy and MDMA, because and what that means is that there's these epidemics that current therapies are not adequately addressing in current pharma, and so there's that level of it. But that's kind of in a way my superficial to my motivation. That's more the explanation of like why it makes sense for my family and
Yeah.
company, is like we're at that moment. But personally, I've experienced the incredible power of these medicines in my own life. Really have helped me be my better self and tap into a much bigger dimension, touch source, and just reorientate my life. And I mean, I could maybe share a couple stories.
Did it
But
start your spiritual journey looking back? Because I know for me, I could say it was a touchstone moment that kind of gave me something to believe in a way. And Ram Dass says the same thing, that his first experience with psilocybin, which is his first psychedelic with Timothy Leary and Allen Ginsberg, that started him on the spiritual path, which it's a big statement.
yeah, and that's 100% true for me. I would say that, I was raised Christian. I said the Shema in Hebrew and English as well. My granddad came from an Orthodox Jewish soap-making family, and it's a complex story. My dad more or less kind of rejected my granddad's kind of all-one philosophy, associating with kind of bailing as a father to go save the world. My dad was awesome. My granddad's awesome. They worked it out later in life. But I was raised Christian, but rejected my Christian faith at like 13. If God so loved the world, why did he send his one and only son at this one spot? What about the Chinese? What about other planets? And then in Harvard, I was a biology major, and was kind of getting disillusioned with this implicit reductionism that human consciousness is just epiphenomenon of physical and evolutionary process and not too big a deal. And I'm like, well, no, I think there's more to the picture. And I remember my first mushroom trip was in junior year. And I remember looking at my arm. I'm like, well, what does it mean at a quantum level that I'm not different from the world? It's just like one energy. There's not like a difference at that basic energetic level. And when I eat and I poop, I'm just tripping, I'm just like, and I'm eating, I'm pooping. I'm like, the energy of the world is just pouring into me and through me and out of me. And I'm not even the same stuff month to month. I'm just like, I'm just like a river of energy with the world. And the world's alive. It's not dead out there and I'm alive over here. It's just like one living process. And, the generations, they rise and they fall. And there's just this, mega life force that's way bigger than whatever concept of self I had. And, just had that first kind of unity experience of just like of identifying myself with this much larger reality that I'm part of and we're all part of. And so, and that wasn't like the big one. It was after college, and I was in Amsterdam. I intersected the Cannabis Cup in 1995. And I was in a squat. There's some really cool cast of characters, and including some people from a church in Arkansas that had formed in 93 with cannabis as their sacrament as a First Amendment religious challenge to the drug war. And that it did not work out. And the founder was in jail, and these awesome vegetarian hippies were facing 10 years of life if they stepped foot back in the States. And, I was just really getting turned on to the drug war is a religious war on the sacrament of our people. And in this time, I had some really mega experiences with LSD and MDMA.
Combined?
Yeah, it was a combined. It wasn't that huge a dose of L, but I was just at a time in my life that I was ready and just completely reorientated my life. I basically died. Like, I just realized I didn't want to be this kind of petty, jealous, stupid fool, and get out of the way and, let the love and light flow. And
what was the container for those experiences? Was it very intentional, or did you sort of stumble into it?
Oh yeah. In hindsight, it was all like,
you got lucky then.
Destiny. Lucky
in a way.
You're very lucky. That,
you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so unpacking a little more. So at the time, my partner, we were at a crisis point, and, and in the medicine, it was clear that whatever on my side was not important. What was important is that I was jealous unconsciously of her adventures in Asia that she'd had for 9 months, where she'd loved and lived and done amazing things, and had to come back to college, just boom, on fire. And just seeing how, like, in 1,000 little subtle ways, I've been kind of cutting her down and being in the way of her light. And in the medicine, it was like, dude, like, and it's so clear just seeing her love and life and eros and compassion in the world. And it's like, dude, better you die than be in the way of her and her light. And, and as I fell away in this eyes closed, I'm in a gay trance club in Amsterdam, and it's like this all night. And, I'm just going deep with the medicine, just on the dance floor. And, and then, so as I, say, you better you die, like, and falling away. I see this kind of demonic horde on her. But her light explodes and explodes and embraces me in an infinite love, infinite light. And like the full on deal. And in hindsight, like it was my own soul, like in Jungian terms, like anima, like, my partner was carrying the energy, but like what I was doing to her, I was doing to my own soul. Like, it was just like, that's like the law. Like, whatever you're doing to other people is what you're doing yourself. And
all one.
Yeah, all one, man.
Sabek.
And yeah, and just, so I was in the love and the light, like all of a sudden, like, holy shit, and, heart chakra blew open and, I'm in there and then I'm out, and I'm like, well, holy shit, instantly, whoa, my granddad, he's totally right. All that stuff he's been telling me my whole life has been sailing over my head, like all the faith traditions are pointing at this, and when they're not making idols out of their beliefs and demonizing each other, and, realization after realization. But then I'm like, but wait a minute, God, so I'm here right now in this club, we're dancing, but there's like rape, there's murder, there's this like fucking horrible shit happening fucking, right now, what's up? and and then I was like microscoped to nothing, and the self of all the just life, just on this and all planets, this life just being and living and dying and being and suffering and laughing, just all of it, just to the on beyond, and the self, and it's all self, and it's all like the self can be and do and whatever that the self is and wants to do. It's just the on beyond, and it's but then I saw Jesus with his back to me, and kind of just stepping in calm and compassionate, not trying to explain it, not complaining about it, just like stepping in. And I was like, wow, I want to be like that. I want to serve. I want to get down. I want to be like that guy. And, just in the maelstrom he was, and just in hindsight, like it was, that was the answer to the question, is that like, as that compassionate Christ Buddha energy, as that activates in us, like that's the solution to the rape, the murder, and that's what's going to make this a heaven on earth is us, that as the part of the divine here to solve that and make it right. I mean, it's still the deep mysteries of suffering and death and pain and anguish and absurdity and everything. And why is that, the case alongside the love and the light at the heart, and I mean, these are the mysteries. But
it seems like this element of choice, in essence, is the name of the game in the universe. The idea that as souls, as incarnate beings, we get to choose. As you said, the self can emanate however the self chooses. It's infinite possibility. But that is the path of growth, in a way. That's what creates, we've been there, now we're here, in a way. And then we're going wherever is next, this continual evolution of flow. And I would suppose the only way I can even try to wrap my head around that, and we're really talking about the great mystery with capital M, is that if there was or is all that is, it's just this thing that all that is, the only way to fully experience itself, which I'd assume is enjoyable, would be the biggest way would be to forget and then remember, in a way. It's like break it apart until you can just, into infinite parts that's continually coming back to the whole. And maybe that's growing. Maybe that's the ultimate blossoming, is like it's just continually coming back. It is more and more and more and more. And it's just like this, as you see in psychedelic visions, this sort of blossoming that doesn't end, this flowering.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like Leela, the play of God. And, and I was just thinking, like, I remember as like kind of as a kid, like looking down at like a little perfect little wave in like a puddle or something, I'm like, wow, if I was just like a little guy or like a little, and I could just be right in there like Ant-Man or something. But, that's like, well, that's like God in us, like, and yeah.
So how old were you, by the way, when that happened on the dance floor?
21. So 21. It was like right after college, November. And so that, that was a foundational experience, and shortly after, I mean, these same hippie vegetarians are like, hey, why are you eating meat? Just, I was just wide open to reevaluate. And I'm like, oh yeah, why am I doing that? And in a cannabis meditation, feeling, seeing I'm in a store, and when I'm in a store, I have a knife, and I can either, kill the cow, or I could just cut down some vegetables. And so why don't I just let the cow do its thing, and I'll just eat vegetables. And, just some big transformational like decisions. But basically the important point of all this is like, just realizing that psychedelic medicine has the answer to, there's many paths, and there's, other people activate in other ways, but for me and many yourself, that these are just really crucial to help us connect. Yeah.
So your decision, I hear that as a personal decision, and that makes a lot of sense to me. And where does the leap come to put your weight as a company behind it? Because that's what I'm wondering, if there is any pushback to that. There's certainly risk involved. Not everyone. Yeah. We're on sort of this like liminal space where it's getting more acceptable. But there's still plenty of people out there with, frankly, a lot of ignorance where it's quite judged, and that could affect your bottom line, perhaps. I mean, now look, this is coming from a company that's had a very psychedelic label for a long time. And I heard you say about the soap was there to sell the label as opposed to the label to sell the soap. So it does fit in with a certain ethos. But
Well,
was there some friction there? I still want to explore that.
yeah. Well, I mean, just briefly, the label, as you know, my granddad's vision of a world united across religious and ethnic divides. We're all one or none, and trying to show spiritual giants across faith traditions, talking about the one true religion of love. That's what the label is about. And, he founded the company as a nonprofit religious organization, which the IRS disagreed with its tax-exempt self-designated status. And we were in bankruptcy in the late 80s and exited as a for-profit, but with this nonprofit DNA at the heart of what we do. And so I think for on this particular cause, so as a company, we cap all executive compensation at 5 times our lowest paid position. And all profits we don't need for the business, we dedicate to the causes and charities we believe in. And there's, different issue areas, income inequality and regenerative organic agriculture, different issue areas. But cannabis and psychedelics has been a real passion area. And to your point about like what we could do, like why are we able to do this now, or how are we able to do it now, and was it difficult? It's been like a 20-year process. And like, so back when we put hemp seed oil, so one of the first things I did when I came back into the company, through a whole, the one thing I knew after college was I wasn't going to work for my family. And my dad's awesome. I didn't want to work for him. But, after these experiences, I was a mental health counselor in the Boston area, got to a point like, wow, if if a company like Dr. Bronner's were to offer me a job, I go for it in a second. Like, what an incredible opportunity. Let my dad, I was ready to come in. My daughter was born on the same day Dr. Bronner died, March 7th, 97. My dad was diagnosed stage 4 lung cancer shortly after. And he lived a year, and we had a very intense year together. But fortunately, I had made the decision to come in. It wasn't like a force. I wasn't forced. But one of the first things to honor my granddad and my dad was just an amazing moral giant of a man in his own right, was to honor this activist legacy, was to put hemp seed oil into the formulation. And hemp seeds, just as far as soap goes, it's really high in omega-3. It's very emollient smooth oil, makes the lather smoother and less drying. But it was also at the nexus of drug policy reform and sustainable agriculture. And, we thought we were going to get Gore and, we were going to recommercialize hemp very soon, but then we got Bush, and then we got in this huge fight, after 9/11, we got the right wing just went nuts and went after all industrial hemp, medical cannabis, like a bunch of stuff. And so we're in this big litigation with DEA, on hemp. And I get a lot of calls from reporters and media, and they'd be asking, usually at some point, well, isn't hemp just like the camel's nose under the tent? Isn't this about marijuana legalization? And, my answer was always like, look, some of us support ending marijuana prohibition. Many of us don't. We have farmers who want nothing to do with that. This is about, non-drug cannabis, agricultural hemp for fiber and seed, blah, blah. And, but the secret answer was, no, get it right. This is about LSD. And
I'm sure that went over well. Yeah.
Well, I didn't even make that joke. It was just my hamster friends,
Right.
But we were all in it for as a way of getting body blows in on the drug war and ultimately like liberating psychedelics, cannabis first and psychedelics. And, so, it's been a long charge. So, hemp and hemp was at the nexus, so from there we went both real hard at regenerative organic agriculture. All our supply chains are now fair trade. We're farming in nature's image. You look at a forest, there's no external synthetic pesticides and fertilizers and inputs. It's just all self-regenerating. So how do we farm and make our food and ingredients for our soap and our clothes in a way that is self-regenerating and it's not destroying the earth? And hemp was that, symbolized sustainable. I mean, it was not the be all end all answer to the world's problems. Like, maybe I thought for a year or two there, but it symbolized a method of agriculture that is crucial. But then it also symbolized, the drug wars is ridiculous and out of control and needs to end. And so, we've been involved in medical cannabis, and then the ending cannabis prohibition in Washington, Colorado in 2012, and DC, our social action director, Adam Eidinger, ran legalized weed, ran the campaign there. 2016, we were on the tables. And, in this time, I joined MAPS. I met Rick Doblin at Burning Man in 2005. At the time, he was suing the DEA over trying to get the marijuana monopoly that was under El Soli at University of Mississippi. Was trying to break that monopoly, and we were litigating on hemp, but really connected deeply. And I told him, like, Rick, dude, someday I'm going to help you. And, I joined the board, I think 2013 or 14 of MAPS. And so my family, we were making some pretty significant contributions to MAPS, and my family was on board with the, healing potential. They didn't have the whole personal experience I did, but they really, understood that this is really healing medicine and the drug war is out of control. But then, really building to this year was, we didn't do this in 2016 or 2018, but in 2020, we're at this moment where the psychedelic renaissance has unfolded to the point where, we've got FDA breakthrough designation. We've got Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, just these watershed cultural moments. Tim Ferriss doing amazing work, being very honest about his own trauma and healing with psychedelic medicine, and funding to John Hopkins psychedelic research, and just a lot of quarters that the Renaissance unfolding. And so in 2020, it was going to be a crucial year because Tom and Sheree Eckert, it's a husband and wife therapist team in Oregon. They had this vision going back to 2015 of bringing psilocybin into the world in a therapeutic frame and outside of medical pharma. So, like, as important as it is that we're busting through the medical pharma route and getting FDA approval, that that psilocybin is going to only be available for people with the narrow qualifying diagnosis of treatment-resistant depression.
And money.
It's not, and otherwise it'll be off-label and extremely expensive. And psilocybin is incredibly helpful for all of us. It's, we're all struggling with the dilemmas of life. We're all on the spectrum of everything. So, how do we get it into that therapeutic frame, like as a wellness, so in a more of a wellness frame and not in the kind of medical pharma or in addition. And the Oregon model, Measure 109, the psilocybin therapy measure, was just all about, maintaining that therapeutic kind of container of, careful preparation and intention setting, working with a trained facilitator who's, and having training standards and criteria. And actually what the program does, it doesn't directly license facilitators. It licenses facilitator training programs. So there'll be, different, styles and more shamanic, more Western therapeutic. But the point being that you'll have like some amount of trust in whoever's going to be facilitating, and often what will be person's very first experience. And that therapeutic container is crucial, one, because, well, just within itself, it's all about being able to fully release into your experience on a high dose psychedelic. To your point, like I had spiritual emergency when you're talking about, how was that in a club in Amsterdam? I was like, I was so out there. After I went through this, I thought like everyone in my life was in the club, they're like just been waiting for me to wake up, wake the hell up and get a clue and whatever. And was like borderline schizophrenic for like 6 months. I had a classic spiritual emergency, the Kundalini energies. I was just unprepared for it. I had no interpretive frameworks for it. And it just wasn't, and I had people who were not very helpful, in the mix. So the Western therapeutic container, it's all about optimizing set and setting, making sure your internal set is really on point and
integration too. Yeah.
And integration. That's right. And then integration. So in the therapeutic containers, in a way, the analog, Western analog of the indigenous ceremonial container, where in indigenous traditions that have been holding these plant medicines, ayahuasca and peyote and iboga for millennia, you don't take the medicine outside the ceremonial container. It's just, just don't do that. And that's what is just important. Like you have a very reverential attitude. You've carefully prepared, you integrate, you prepare, you don't just take it, casually. So, and then the other importance about the therapeutic model is that it's safe, it's well structured, and it's accessible to the huge amount of the population that are not psychedelically experienced. This is new, and they need an access point that is familiar and feels safe. And so that therapeutic model, I think, is really crucial. And that's, now in addition to that therapeutic model in Oregon, also decriminalized nature. Well, first in Denver, we had decriminalized Denver. We supported Kevin Matthews and team. So that was the first big break. And we 100% do support being able to take mushrooms and medicine in your own home, out in the forest, however you want, at a Grateful Dead concert. That's, where that's also important. So, that was happening, and then Oakland followed. Now we've got Ann Arbor, and
it's really spreading that model on a municipal level. It's smart.
Yeah, and so DC was going to also be in play, So as a company, we brainstormed up the Heal Soul campaign. So what we do with my granddad's labels is, so this is generally what our label looks like. You're familiar with. And
do you guys sell like posters of that, like a little bigger, so you can really dig in? And
we used to. I gotta
cool.
Yeah, but here is the special Heal Soul. So once in a while, we'll change the label for like a few months to call out an issue. And Heal Soul was all about psychedelic therapy and healing and the different medicines and different conditions and how we're going to heal up these epidemics of depression. And
I sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to add what you're saying about all these new resources. And, that's why I released the Music for Mushrooms album, because I was like, a big part of this, the therapeutic work, as it has been across millennia, is the music as the vehicle and the container that takes you through it.
Yeah.
And that we need those tools.
Yeah. I mean, music's a huge part of the experience. Right on. Yeah. Roland Griffiths, like what they're doing at Johns Hopkins. I mean, it's all about the right music, kind of helping, soundtracking and inspiring your experience. And that's awesome. Right on.
Yeah, they had. I mean, personally, I thought they had some blind spots there. There's very little research going into the music side of things. Mendel Kalin's done some of that, and at Imperial College when he was there, along with some folks there. But it kind of seemed like an afterthought. Like they're thinking about that last. And I'm biased, but from my perspective, I was like, it's very important. It might be the second most important thing to consider, is what music and how this music is interacting with its experience, because there isn't much music out there, particularly for psilocybin, that's designed for that. There's plenty of music that can work pretty well with it. But if you think like the Icaros and ayahuasca ceremony, from their lineage, that is the ceremony. That is what's calling forth the spirits of the medicine, is the songs. They're critical. And so it's sort of like, I felt the need for us to build that tradition into the new Western sort of psychedelic therapeutic movement.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And that's, I think like music, it's like the same kind of mode of consciousness that psychedelics, it's in a way it just really facilitates and helps that experience, because that's where you need to be. You need to be on that wavelength.
It's transdimensional music. Yeah.
Right on. And get out of that kind of linear thinking, whatever kind of mode of being. And So as far as heals, like the controversy, like was this going to be like really controversial? I mean, absolutely. I thought this was going to be much more controversial than it turned out to be. I mean, we sell in Walgreens, Walmart, Target, all the mass market accounts, as well as natural food stores. Um, and, and we were totally activist about how we do it. And this was obviously one of the most activist things we've done, is like to put a label all about psychedelic healing into, mainstream stores. We figured that, it'd be in there for a few weeks and then we'd have to swap it out, in a lot of cases. But we did not have one retailer complain at all. And Walgreens, in fact, we gave them one of our regular labels for an ad they were running in store, and they wanted the Heal Soul.
Is that because they're really aware of, for instance, are they actually reading it? Or they're just kind of like, is it more of a surface pop level? Like, yeah, that looks cool. Or people are starting to be into this, so we want it too. Like, what's the corporate vibe there in response?
Well, you know what? Like my brother, company president, Mike Bronner, he's awesome. And he said, like, what our intention here with this label is to communicate in a way my mom's church group can receive. Like just to make it.
You can't argue with it.
Yeah, you can't argue with it, man. We put this in the most straightforward, just breaking it down. Like, look, we've got epidemics of depression, anxiety. FDA's given these medicines breakthrough status. Like, it's time to destigmatize this conversation and mainstream and rationalize it. And so, I think, just the way we kind of laid it out just made it a lot less, controversial than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah. That's a big ethos of mine too. I try to present things in a way that it's hard to argue with it. Like, there's sort of a universality of it, or you're not even using certain words that have a connotation now that maybe they have more baggage, right? And so it's like, okay, we'll put those aside. There's another word that's, that can work for just about everybody.
No, 100%, man. And that's Rick and Roland. Like, that's why psilocybin and MDMA were picked, not LSD. I mean, LSD's just got way too much baggage, and you say LSD, and it's just like everybody's got all kinds of opinions and associations. But psilocybin, like, what's that? And so that's a really, really key point. Like, kind of avoiding trigger words that trigger unnecessary associations to what's actually the subject,
sure,
and the issue. Yeah,
that's amazing. And so you've been sort of leading the charge in this sort of conscious capitalism way as a company, and it seems from the outside like that's been a benefit for you as opposed to a hindrance. Like, do you feel like it's made it harder to do business in this very capitalistic world, or has it helped?
No, I think it's helped. I think we're showing that you can be a social venture. So we're a benefit corp. It's this new corporate form where generally a C corp or S corp will your one and only purpose is to maximize shareholder return. And if you're not doing that, you can be sued. So, like, if we had outside shareholders, we could be sued for giving all our money away. They're saying, like, oh, you're not maximizing my profit. And a benefit corp is a new form that allows you to enshrine purposes other than maximizing profit. And in our case, basically, our purpose is like, we can give as much profit as we want to whatever socially and environmentally beneficial causes as we feel are important. And we're now legally protected in doing that if we had to bring on shareholders for whatever reason. And as far as the success of the model, I mean, there's just so many people that really do want to buy products that haven't gone to hell and back, that are doing good in the world, and are willing to pay a reasonable. I mean, our soaps are maybe somewhat more expensive than other soaps, but they're not ridiculous. There's not a ridiculous premium to them, and that just enables us to, not screw over our workers or our farmers or our, suppliers, and do things in the right way. It's good price, it's good value, it's concentrated, it's awesome soap. But yeah, and then I think that all these causes that we engage on, like, instead of a marketing budget, we have this, activism budget, and it gets us a lot of earned media, like just a lot of attention and love. And yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And this is nothing to do with advocacy, but, like, to be honest, what got me into Dr. Bronner's soap a long time ago was when I realized that a lot of soaps out there have a lot of toxicity, and terrible ingredients. And I was like, this is nuts. That I just was like, how do I not use when I'm using something as basic as soap that you actually use a lot throughout the day, from washing dishes to your hands to the shower and so forth, and it could be harming you. It's crazy to me.
Yeah. It is nuts, man. Like there's so much toxic schlock and so much personal care products. I mean, it's not really well regulated at all.
Sure.
Environmental Working Group has a database called Skin Deep you can go to, and they score products on levels of toxicity for people. And, like our attitude is that, whatever you put on your skin is going to go in your body. I mean, you're going to absorb some of it through your skin, and it's going to bypass the liver. It's going to, go straight in your bloodstream. And the liver is what generally will break down toxic crap. And there's just there's some like real hormone disruptors and just, carcinogens and just all kinds of stuff in personal care products. So our soaps are certified under the USDA's organic program, same that certifies food. It's like a very clean ingredient deck. You can pronounce the ingredients. It's stuff you would find in your house, in your pantry. So that's definitely a huge way people come into the brand is, just like, whoa, I cannot pronounce any of these ingredients in all these other products. I want to trust something. And yeah.
Well, I know you've got just about 5 minutes till you have a heart out, which I want to respect. But let me just wrap this around by asking you, are you hopeful, not just as a company, but as a person, and for like this trial that we're going through as a people on this planet that I also see mirrored on a lot of people on an individual level? What kind of edge are you up against, and what are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, I don't want to like overstate that. I mean, obviously we are facing some incredible problems, collective problems. I mean, climate change crisis and income inequality and, systemic racism and traumas that have been not metabolized and processed and dealt with. But I do feel the solutions are in hand, that, we need to decarbonize our economy. We need to move to regenerative organic agriculture at a global scale. Need to end the drug war. Stop shredding people's lives for no good reason. If people are in the throes of addiction, get them the help they need without, further ruining things. Integrate our medicines. I think the medicines, as that really is available for people to help them sort their stuff, and just be their better selves and heal up their generation, all the generational trauma that's ricocheting down, and just help them be better husband, wives, children, parents, citizens. The psychedelically open citizenry. I'm optimistic is going to be way more compassionate and awesome, and really grapple seriously with these collective problems we're facing, rather than rationalize them away or deny or whatever. So cautiously optimistic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are things we have to work with, which will take time. It's a process. It's not something, as you said, we can compartmentalize or rationalize and just put it on a shelf. Like, we're very much in a process, and it needs to have its process. And that's not always fun, but it's a kind of, as Bio Akomolafe said on this podcast, he was talking about it like it's a composting in a sense. And I think it's a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah, absolutely. And medicine, I was calling out, I mean, I do want to like shout out like ayahuasca and the plant medicine traditions. And, often those experiences are as far from fun as can be. I mean, they're incredibly difficult, but
Sure.
That's like the work. And that I think will really help us just, resonate and reconnect to nature and each other, and compost ourselves and just birth forth an even better, more beautiful humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Man.
David Bronner, Cosmic Engagement Officer of the Universe of Dr. Bronner's. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time. It's an honor to meet you. And thank you for everything you guys are doing out there, not just with your product, but with your advocacy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, right on, East Forest. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, brother.
This is awesome, man. Yeah, man.
Well, thank you so much, David, for coming on. It'd be great if we were blessed to talk to you again, because there's so many cross currents of conversation. But let me just say thank you again for the work you're doing and for your soap. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation. So if you don't own Dr. Bronner stuff, please do. And there's lots of ways that support of their company is going to support so many other wonderful things. This song that you're hearing in the background is called Hide, and it's sort of a rework of the song Run, which is on the Education of the Individual Soul, which is the first East Forest record. And there's another record called Orbits later on that has it's kind of a greatest hits at that time. It was songs that were redone for the AWOL Dance Company when I kind of performed for them live and made a score for their piece. Their 10 Laws dance piece that we did in the forest, and that's what this song is from. Thank you again for all of your support. Thank you for following us into 2021 as we do this dance and this walk together. Oh, beautiful souls, thank you. You're doing what you need to do. Just keep doing it and breathing into that heart, listening, and all the answers will be revealed. All one, my friends. Keep walking your walk. Don't take any shit. But if you do, do it with grace.